Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 3 of the Monday Q&A. So let's do it. First question. Is it true that once you do high frequency training for a while, let's say squatting and pressing 4+ times a week, you really can't go back and train less frequently? In other words, in order to keep making progress, your frequency must stay up. Like it's got to stay up there, like you've given that frequency Viagra every day. No, in fact, this is the first time I've ever heard this suggested. I've seen people rotate through frequencies in the real world and make progress after increasing, after decreasing. I don't even understand where this myth came from. I don't understand how it could even work, why it would happen. So the answer is no, it's not true, complete myth. And even though I've never heard this myth before, let's go ahead and shut it down before it gets repeated. Not true. I've seen in the real world plenty of times with people that it's not true. There's no biological reason or programming reason why it would be true. You can change frequencies both directions and still make progress, even if you've made progress on a higher or a lower frequency than you have currently in the past. All right, next question. Is testing your vertical with no experience training with it or lifting a good test to determine genetic potential for power/strength? No, it's a good way to determine your potential if you don't want to train and see where you're at right now. The problem with this idea is that people assume that where you start is based purely upon your total genetic potential, and that's not true. It has to do with the lifestyle factors that you've led up to right up to that point. Your activity, your nutrition. Not every person has had the exact same activity level their whole life before they started training. Some people are more sedentary than others, some are more active than others. Two people with the exact same total genetic potential, you've got different genes that are turned on and off. Even though you might have those same genes, they're not always active in some people. Some people are born with certain genes active. Some people have those genes activated through different points in their life, their childhood, their adolescence, something like that. And that other people have those same genes come on through some sort of external stimulus in adulthood. But as long as the genes come on, the potential for those genes in the long term is still there. So no, it doesn't matter. There could be one guy who comes in and his vertical leap untrained is literally 80% of what his maximum genetic potential is for the rest of his life. And someone else could come in and it's only 40%. They both hit their maximum potential. Who's increased the most? So it's not a good determiner at all, and it doesn't work that way because of the issue of with genes turning on and off. So you can sometimes tell how quickly someone's going to progress on something in the short term, starting from where they're at. Because obviously, if you start off really well and someone else starts off really poorly, in 3 months' time, the person who started way ahead is still probably going to be ahead. But in 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, you can't predict it based upon where someone started in any of these athletic traits. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. All right, next question. Are there any diet plus exercise tips for females to get rid of cellulite, or is it 100% genetics and they can't do anything about it? It's none of the above. Cellulite is dimples in your fat. If you remove the fat, the cellulite goes away. Now, sometimes that's easier said than done because where you have your cellulite might be a genetic area that it's harder for you to lose fat in. It might be your problem area, in which case you could get very lean and you're still going to have a little cellulite there, but it doesn't mean you couldn't get rid of it if you just kept dieting even leaner. It's that it may not be worth it to you to put yourself through that kind of hell. But you've got to remember, at the end of the day, cellulite itself is comprised purely of fat tissue. If you burn body fat off of your body by creating a calorie deficit, and preferably some resistance training and cardio in there, the cellulite will shrink, it will reduce. But for some people, it just simply may not be worth the hassle to diet lean enough to completely remove it or get it to an acceptable level. And it's that simple. But for anybody, if you want to reduce cellulite, diet off some of your body fat. And you can't target where you lose body fat. So there you have it. It's just body fat.